Hey everyone, today our video is going to be about properties and really properties using multiplication. Okay, so our objective or our OBJ today is I can identify the properties. So can you pick them out whenever you see them, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do, or the first thing you should do is make sure you put this in your table of contents. Make sure you put today's date, your title is properties, and then whatever page number is your next available page. And if you need to pause the video now so you can do that, now would be a good time. Okay, so the first property we are going to talk about is called the commutative property. Commutative. And I try to teach these properties and really anything that we learn in math with something that's really funny or something, a fun way to remember it, okay? So the commutative property, if we think about what the root word or the main word of commutative is, it is commute. And when you go to college one day or you are going to your job, you commute to school or you commute to your job every day, which means you have to travel there. So commute means travel. So we are going to remember the commutative property means that numbers are going to travel. So we can put example, numbers, travel. So here's problem number one, or what the property might look like. If you have 4 plus 3, if we rewrote this using the commutative property says numbers can travel. So one side of the equal sign is 4 plus 3. The other side, the numbers can travel. They can switch spots. So we have 3 plus 4. All they did was move spots, or they traveled. If we're looking at multiplication, 6 times 3, and if we use the commutative property, that means our numbers can travel. So we could also read it as 3 times 6. And that really means, guys, that any way, or if I were to solve 6 times 3, I'm going to get 18. If I were to solve 3 times 6, I'm also still going to get 18. So they are equal to each other, which is why we have the equal sign there. And so the commutative property says that the numbers can travel and you will get the same answer. So let's do one together, and you can pause it if you need to. If we have 7 plus 9, and we want to use the commutative property, what would I write on the other side? Go ahead and take a minute to write down what you think you would put on the other side. And if you put 9 plus 7, you are correct. The numbers are just traveling. Let's try a different one. If we have 12 times 36, what would we put on the other side if we're using the commutative property? We would put 36 times 12. So you're still going to get the same answer, and the numbers are allowed to travel. They're allowed to move or switch spots. All right, that is the commutative property. The next property we're going to learn is the associative property. So the root word or the main word in associative is associate. And if you are in a club or a sport, you associate with different people. When you go to your math class, you associate yourself with your math friends, but when you go on the playground, maybe you are now associating yourself with your football friends. So the associative property, we think of associate, or we like to think of our parentheses being our groups of friends. I'll move that over so you can see that. So we do have parentheses, and when we have those, we are being associated with a certain group of friends. So here is an example. If I have 10 times 12 times 22, right now my 12 and my 22 are friends. They are associating with each other. They're a group of friends because they are in the parentheses together. So on the other side, maybe my 12 now wants to go associate with a different group of friends or hang out with their other crowd of friends. So the parentheses moved to now being around the 10 and the 12. So now the 10 and the 12 are associating themselves together. So when our parentheses move is when we have the associative property. Notice my numbers did not change. So I have 10, 12, and 22 in the same order, 10, 12, 22. So my numbers stay the same, and the only thing that moves is my group or my parentheses of my friends that are associating with each other. So here's another one. So if I have a group of friends, 6 plus 8, 6 and 8 are friends. They are associating with each other. Plus 4. I'm going to keep my numbers where they are. But now my 8 is going to associate with the 4. Or hang out with the 4. So again, my numbers stayed the same, 6, 8, and 4, and they're all in order, 6, 8, 4 on both sides. The only thing that's changing is my group of friends, my parentheses. So if we have 55 times 2 times 33, I'm going to have you put the parentheses in on both sides. So take a minute, pause the video if you need to, put in your parentheses, create a group of friends on one side, and then make sure on the other side that that parentheses moves so that you are creating a different group of friends on the other side. So you might have 2 times 33 in parentheses on the left side, and on the right side it would then change. 55 times 2 would then be in parentheses there. All right, our last property we are going to talk about is called the distributive property. So again, let's start with the root word, or what is the main word of distributive? It is distribute. What does distribute mean? Well, if your teacher is walking around the room and passing out papers, they are distributing papers to the entire class. So distribute means to pass out or to hand out. And that's what's going to happen with our number. So, for example, this is what the distributive property looks like. 3 times 5 plus 8. Okay? So you may also notice the distributive property has different operations happening. It has a multiplication sign and a plus sign. Whereas our associative property, it was either all multiplication or all addition. And same with the commutative property. We either had addition or we had multiplication happening. So the distributive property has multiplication and addition. Now, here's what it looks like on the other side. If we are going to distribute or hand out, this is what is being handed out. The 3 is going to be handed out, and so is the multiplication sign. And we are going to hand those things out to the 5, and we're going to hand it out to the 8. So on the right side of the equal to sign, we will then have 3 times 5. We then have our plus sign, and then we're going to give the 3 and the times to the 8. And normally we put those in parentheses as well. So we gave the 5, the 3, and the x, or the times, and we also gave the 8, the 3, and the times. So if we are distributing, we can do this problem. 2 times 10 plus 2. What is going to be distributed or handed out? The 2 and the times. We're going to hand it to the 10 first. So on this side, you could put 2 times. We're giving it to the 10. We're going to put in our plus sign. And then we're also going to hand it over to this other 2. 2 times 2. And that is the distributive property.